Welcome to episode 33 of the Arctic Crafts podcast. My name is Bente and I'm coming to you from Vesterålen in northern Norway, where I live with my husband and 3 cats. You can find me on Instagram as Arctic Crafts, on Etsy and Facebook as Arctic Crafts by Bente, and on Ravelry as Arctic Crafts 65. Today we're having a beautiful spring day. Yes, it's still spring because we still have some snow on the ground, but now we're only talking about the piles that we have added onto through the winter when we are shoveling snow. So it's just a question of time, I guess. A couple of more days and all the snow is gone. And as you can see, I finally got my haircut. And I've actually also got new glasses, so I'm all new and improved today. Or improved. What I'm wearing, I'm not wearing any knitwear, but I'm wearing wool. This fun, colorful necklace was a gift from my mother. She got it as a gift, but she gifted it on to me because she thought this was more my style. And I really love it. It's too hot to wear anything knitted. I was thinking about wearing one of my FOs, but I decided against it. But said FO is this one. I finished my Venezia by Joji Locatelli, and it's actually perfect for wearing in summer or spring because it's really lightweight. And because it's a one skein shawl, it's not big. So it's more of a decorative piece, really. I'm not sure it would be warm in winter, but I think it's really beautiful. And the yarn I've used is Hedgehog Fibres, and the colorway is Echo. I decided to start using my Hedgehog Fibres because I have quite a few skeins, and you'll see more Hedgehog Fibres when I start showing you my whips. And if you heard that noise, it's Snape. Severus Snape is on form today, so you'll probably hear more of him. And these are my Rainbow Connection socks by Crazy Socklady. And even though these were really fun to knit, I've used much longer on them than I normally do on socks because I've been a bit new and shiny cast-on-itis because of this outbreak, I think, because I've had some bouts of cabin fever and wanted to cast on something new all the time. The yarn I've used is Nicole C. Mendes for the self-striping, and the black is a commercial Norwegian sock yarn called Silja. And I recommend these for self-striping because self-striping, who doesn't have a stash of self-striping? And it's always fun when new patterns are made for self-striping. So recommend knitting these with self-striping yarn. You can of course knit them with 2 different colors as well, but they're really fun with self-striping. Those are my FOs. I have a hoe as well. I have knit a sample. I only have knit 1 sock so far. It's my mixed tape. It's blowing out a bit on camera. The orange is a bit brighter than than it looks on camera. This is my mixed tape sock set. And as I said, I've only knit 1 sock. I've cast on the 2nd sock, but I think I'm going to add a picture of this to my shop so people can see what it looks like knit up. As you can see, it almost looks like a self-striping, and I really like this effect. So that's what I have finished, and I of course have loads of whips. And I'm only going to show you the whips I have been working on for the last couple of weeks since my last podcast. We can start with something really fun because I started The Daydreamer by Andrea Mowry if you can remember. And I had wanted to knit that sweater forever, and I even dyed up yarn for it especially. And the problem was that I have gotten this far and I realized that the sweater was going to be just a tiny bit too small for me, and I wanted a bit of ease. So, and I checked and I didn't have enough yarn for a size bigger, and it's not easy to get the exact same color, especially when we're talking semi-solids. So I figured I have to find another pattern that I can use the yarn for. And I didn't find anything I liked. And then I remembered I have some resource books. I can try to make my own pattern. And so I picked up this one. And Ann Budd, you probably heard of Ann Budd. And this is the Knitter's Handy Book of Top-Down Sweaters. And what this is, it's a recipe book. All it is are tables for different constructions of sweaters, and you just figure out your gauge, and then you go into the tables and you find how many stitches to cast on, how many stitches to increase, and there is raglan shaping, saddle shoulders, round yokes, different constructions, V-necks, everything. And I've never knit a saddle shoulder sweater before, so of course I decided to do that. If I was going to make my own design, I of course wanted to knit something I've never knit before. And before I show you the sweater, I will show you the other book I used to make it. This is a Norwegian edition, but the original is called the Knitter's. Let's check. The original is called the Knitter's Stitch Collection, and it's by Lesley Stanfield and Melody Griffiths. I'll put this in the show notes below, of course. And the yarn I'm using is my own. I think I have a skein back here that I can show you. It's my own Gold Sport, and the colorway is Cookie Dough. And I decided to knit a cabled sweater. Of course I did. And this is the back panel. And this cable pattern I found in the resource book. And the cable on the shoulders, that's a standard cable, so I didn't need a resource book for that. And I'm thinking the cable is going to continue down the sleeve. I haven't decided on what to do on the front yet, so this is in hibernation for the time being. The only thing I have decided is that I want a V-neck. But this is, as I said, this is the back piece of the sweater. So that's one of my whips. I can show you quickly this. I have hardly knit anything on this, but this is On the Beach by Isabel Kramer. And it's I'm knitting it with frog yarn, that's why it looks a bit uneven. I'm thinking that is going to block out. And the yarn I'm using for that is Viking Björk. I think you can get this yarn internationally. You'll just have to check. Their website is called Viking of Norway, I think. And I have just checking my show notes, and I'll just take them as I grab them. This bag is from Busy Pottering, and as you can tell, I have some buttons on here. I have Cozy Up Knits, I have the Grocery Girls, the Tangled Skein CA, and a beautiful pin. The pin is a gift from my bestie Sue in Canada, who is Tangled Skein CA. And down in this I have something I'm knitting as a sample with a new base. This is a sock yarn. It's called XR Merino DK. The XR stands for extra robust because this is 80% merino and 20% nylon. So you can use it for socks. But it's really soft, so it's also beautiful for sweaters and shawls. And my sample is a shawl. The colorway, by the way, is stone-washed denim. That colorway is eligible for our knit-along. And I forgot to talk about the knit-alongs, but I'll show you this whip and then I'll do the knit-along afterwards. This is called stone-washed denim, the colorway, and the shawl is Autumn Scarf by JumperCables. And this is perfect TV knitting because it's really intuitive. I don't use the pattern anymore. It's all counting, and if you can read your knitting, you don't need a pattern. After you started this, you don't need a pattern when you get the hang of this. And then the knit-alongs, I forgot to mention the knit-alongs. I have 2 knit-alongs going, and one is the 80s Kids make-along that I'm doing with Chevyrell of Chevyrell stuff. And as I said, stone-washed denim. If you knit something with a colorway that has anything to do with the 80s, it's eligible. And if you knit something that was typically worn in the 80s, like an oversized sweater that's off the shoulder, leg warmers, anything brightly colored, or if the pattern has a name that's associated with the 80s, or the colorway has a name that's associated with the 80s, if you can convince me that your project has anything to do with the 80s, you can join us. And Make-along has a thread in my Ravelry group, and Chevyrell is she is drawing her winner from Instagram. So if you use the hashtag 80skids make-along, you can then you enter for her prize drawing. My prize drawing is only going to be done in my Ravelry group, and the main prize is a skein of my 80s Kids colorway, and the runner-up gets a pattern of their own choice from Ravelry. And the other knit-along is my Arctic Crafts year-long knit-along, and I do a prize drawing every quarter. And to join that knit-along, you have to knit a project even using only my yarn, or my yarn as a contrast color in a sweater, for example. You don't need to use only my yarn to enter that knit-along. And then I'm done with the knit-alongs. I should have done this at the beginning. I guess that's one of the drawbacks with doing this only every other Friday instead of every Friday, because it's strange how quickly you forget about things, especially when your brain is starved because you have nothing else to do. I of course dye a lot of yarn, but I normally do that anyway. So that was that. I forgot to tell you, I'm knitting that shawl on 4.5 millimeter needles. And another thing I forgot to mention is that yarn is those skeins are 150 grams. The reason why I chose 150 gram skeins is because if you're knitting a pair of socks, adult size men, you need 150 grams for an entire pair of socks. And for sweater quantities, it's you don't need as many skeins naturally, because you have 150 gram per skein. That DK with nylon is probably going to be my only DK. As soon as I'm out of the other DK I have in the shop, I'm only going to restock with that one, because It's a versatile yarn. You can use it both for socks and for sweaters and shawls and hats and mittens and anything you want. Because as I normally say, that you can't knit socks with yarn that hasn't got nylon in it. You can of course knit if it really high twist and it's BFL or Corriedale or a hardy wool, but you can knit sweaters with yarn that contains nylon. So I'm going to have only one DK in the shop, and I'm going to exchange the one I have with that one. The next work in progress is a new cast on, because as I was saying, I have a lot of hedgehog and I wanted to use some more of it. This work in progress is a new, rather new design from Casapinka called Breathe and Hope. And I'm knitting this, as you can see, in 2 colors, and I'm in the middle of a row. Really professional. The yarns I'm using is one skein of Wild Carrot from Nora George, and the other skein is Hedgehog Fibres, and the colorway is Harvest, and the Nora George is 100% Corriedale. And as you can see, there's not a lot of contrast between the 2 colors. You can see one of them is semi-solid and the other one is variegated, but the Casapinka's version also had low contrast, and it was I really liked the look of it, so I decided to do the same. This is going to be, we're going to see the stripes a lot better when it's blocked, so looking forward to blocking this, because I think it's going to be a beautiful shawl, and it's my colors. I love this color. It's almost a mustardy yellow, or you can call it gold, of course. And I'm knitting this on 3.5mm needles at the moment, but as the pattern states, this part, because it's a slip stitch, she recommends that you go up a needle size, and that's brilliant, because I'm knitting these pattern repeats. I'm knitting with a 4mm needle, and the rest I'm knitting on a 3.5mm needle. And this isn't exactly TV knitting or Netflix knitting, because the pattern changes a bit. This part is the same every time, the slip stitch pattern, but these bits change from every repeat, so I have to keep an eye on the pattern. And that's my Breathe and Hope. And I have to check my show notes. This isn't that exciting, because it's just my second sock of the mixtape, so I don't have to show you that one. And this is a sock that I cast on Wednesday, because on Wednesday I was sitting in a car dealership waiting for them to put the summer tires on our car. So I just cast on shorties. This is leftover Nicole C. Mendes, and the hot pink is from a mini skein set that I bought from It's a Stitch Up. And that will also be linked down below. And this bag is from one of my favorite bag makers, the Tangled Stitch in Canada. And I really love this one because of the bright colors, and of course the alpacas or llamas, who knows. And I actually also, my knitting mojo has been absent a bit these last 2 weeks. That's one of the reasons, I think, why I have cast on so many things, because I get easily bored by my knitting. So I also had a tendency to get some tendonitis in this hand, especially the thumb, and I use my hands in a different way when I crochet. So I have been crocheting on my granny stripe, and it's getting a bit longer. So I'm showing you this again today because I've knit quite a bit on it. Sorry, crocheted, not knit. You've seen millions of these before, so you know probably that this is Attic 24's granny stripe blanket. And I made myself a magic ball with loads of different minis. And the great thing about the granny stripe blanket is even if you have scraps that are only a few meters long, you can just do a magic knot and incorporate them in your blanket. And the magic knot, I think you have a tutorial on YouTube for that. So if you want to know how to make a magic knot, you just go to YouTube and search for magic knot. And when it comes to acquisitions, I don't have any. I have something I'm waiting for that was sent from Canada in early April. Mail these days. It's and that's something I'm kind of losing a bit of sleep over, because most of my customers are overseas in the US and Canada, and especially Canada, it's sometimes they don't send mail there at all, so I have to check for every order I get. I have to go check the webpage for the Norwegian Postal Service to check, can I send something to Canada today? And suddenly I can, and then it goes and then a couple of weeks passes by, and suddenly I can't send stuff to Canada. So my Canadian customers has had to be really patient with me, but fortunately for me, they are patient with me. And hand-dyed yarn, it's not a necessity as such, so probably that's one of the reasons people can wait for it. And I think a lot of people are buying yarn these days to support small businesses, and that's really appreciated, because I keep dyeing yarn and my inventory just keeps growing. And talking about supporting small businesses, I have this Ko-fi page that I started to make a bit of money. So I had money for shipping out prices, and maybe possibly get better equipment for the podcast eventually. So it's really appreciated if you go to the Ko-fi page as well, and I can use this opportunity to thank the people that already did so. It means a lot. And because I don't have anything else yarny to show you, I can show you what I have been dyeing the last couple of weeks. So this bit is going to be a little bit of self-promotion. I hope you can forgive me. This is examples of the one thing I did is I decided to dye up a couple of sweater quantities on DK. It's a bit risky because I'm not sure that these colorways necessarily will sell, but I've dyed up 6 skeins of each of these 2 colorways. This is antique copper, and as I was saying, I have 6 skeins of this going into the shop on Sunday. I also dyed up 6 skeins of draug, and draug is a Norwegian mythological creature. It's a sea monster, and this colorway is inspired by kelp. So that's the colorway is called draug. I also, and after dyeing up all that, I can't call it neutrals, can I? I'm calling it neutrals because I dyed up more semi-solids. I dyed up more antique copper. I dyed up antique copper on Corriedale. I knit a pair of socks in antique copper in Corriedale, and they're really beautiful. This color and semi-solid hand-dyed yarn is beautiful to use for textured socks and cabled socks and things like that. And I also dyed up antique copper on another new base. This is high twist single ply, and the yarn that this is replacing is the silver stellina sock yarn. I'm going to dye up single ply instead, because I have a limited space for my stock and inventory. There's a limit to how many different bases I can have in the shop. So when I bring in something new, I have to remove something. So stellina is going out and singles are coming in instead. And after, I have one more semi-solid that I've been dyeing, and it's the stonewashed denim. This is on the merino without any nylon in it, the old DK. And this is stonewashed denim, and I don't have a sweater quantity of this, but I have 3 skeins, so I have enough for a big shawl. And after dyeing up all that semi-solid, I needed some color, so I dyed up this, and it's a bit of neon, and that green is a neon green, but it's blowing out a bit on camera. And this is I dyed up 3 skeins of this on Corriedale, and I'm just calling it Impressionist Watercolor Spring Edition. So it's a one of a kind, and Impressionist watercolor is one of the things I do when I kind of get a bit bored with my normal colorways and I want to do something a bit crazy. I dye up skeins and I call it Impressionist watercolor. So that's the one I dyed up another colorful skein. It's a bit muted, but it has loads of different colors. It's kind of almost autumn colors. And this is a new colorway. This is going to be coming back to the shop. This is called Kaleidoscope. And I have, it's a bit messy this, because my yarn is kind of just stacked on top of each other, so I'm not sure what I'll just take them as I grab them. This is another high twist single, and this is the colorway Møysalen. And Møysalen is a mountain I can actually see from my I can see it through the window where I'm sitting. And this is the whiter areas are for the snow on the peak, and the grey is for the mountain, and the colored speckles are for the flowers at the foot of the mountain. And you see Møysalen, you can see Møysalen in almost all my episodes, because that's the view I often either take pictures of or film when I'm out for my walks. So that's Møysalen on single ply, and I've dyed up some Gold Sport, and this is my Blueberry Smoothie colorway, and this is Gold Sport, so that's sport weight, 80% merino and 20% nylon. It's the same yarn I'm using for my sweater. It's really soft, so it's beautiful for sweaters. And I've dyed up some Summer Meadow. I'm kind of optimistic. And this green is a bit brighter than it looks. or more saturated than it looks on camera. And this is called Summer Meadow, and this is on Polldale. And June is Pride Month, so I dyed up a couple of rainbow mini skein sets, and these are on platinum sock. That's 75% merino and 25% nylon. And I forgot to tell you that the kaleidoscope is also on platinum sock. And yesterday I dyed up some sock sets, and this colorway I'm calling Strawberry Pavlova, and I'm just inspired by the cake I made for May 17th. So this is Strawberry Pavlova, and this is a 50 plus 20 gram sock set. I'm going to dye up this in full skeins as well, but for the time being it's only on sock sets. And something else I dyed up yesterday. This is the XR Merino DK with nylon, and it's my rock garden. And as you can see, this is quite the skein because this is 150 grams of yarn. So I wanted to, rock garden is a colorway I often do when I'm testing out new bases, because I want to see how they take the dye and how it speckles and stuff like that. And then I often do rock garden because that's a colorway that's really popular as well. So that's the shop update, and that's on the coming Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Central European Summertime. And life stuff, it's the same all over again. We've finally got some really nice weather, so hopefully the flowers are going to start showing up. I have some footage at the start of this podcast, pictures I've taken. At the start it's a bit of May 17th stuff, because May 17th is Norway's Constitution Day, and this year we stayed home because there was nothing happening because of the social distancing and everything. So no parades and no marching bands and nothing like that this year. At the end of this episode, I'm putting in a bit of footage from a walk we did yesterday evening. We went down to the beach, and it's a 5-minute walk. We live in the middle of one of the most beautiful areas in Norway, so we have a lot of beautiful scenery that we can see from our windows, and I'm putting that at the end of the episode. The outbreak is also messing up our summer holiday, because every summer we drive for 12 hours to Namsos, where I grew up, to visit my mother. Because she is high risk, we have been recommended not to visit her, and if we want to visit her, we have to do so outdoors and at least 1 meter away. So we decided, and she agrees, that to drive 12 hours for that, it's kind of crazy. So we're hoping that things have calmed down a bit in October, so we're going to do that trip during autumn break instead. So our summer is going to be, we are going to be staying at home all summer, and both my sons are coming here in June, and the youngest is going to stay here for 5 weeks, and the oldest only for a week, but he has a job to go to, so he can't stay here for longer than a week. Really looking forward to that, and it's kind of the thing that it's wonderful having them here, but it's nice to be just the two of us as well. So best of both worlds, really. And that's it, I think. This episode isn't going to be really long, even though it's been 2 weeks, because I haven't done a lot of knitting. What I have been doing, I've been dyeing yarn and just sitting around, really. I've had the haircut, I've got new glasses, and that's kind of what I have to show for the last 2 weeks. I'm watching a lot of podcasts, and I haven't been watching a lot of podcasts because I normally watch podcasts with my headset on while hubby is watching sports on TV, but no football, no nothing because of the outbreak, so I'm not watching as many podcasts as I normally do. So I kind of have to prioritize and just watch the podcasts I really, really want to watch, and I'll just have the backlog on all the other ones. And I think I'm going to stop here before I babble too much, and I hope you enjoy the bit of footage I put at the end of the episode, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. I'm taking next week off dyeing because I want to do the spring clean of the house and the garden, but I'll have some self-promotion in 2 weeks too. So I hope to see you in 2 weeks. Thank you for coming by, and stay safe.